What's poppin', y'all? It is your boy, Gardi3, and welcome to Coffee and Sports, the morning show. Now, of course, joining us this morning is the anchor of Coffee and Sports, the morning show. He's the guy holding it down this entire time. He is Mo Betta. How you doing, Mo?
Doing great on a Friday. Getting ready to talk some hoops. A little bit of everything. A little college playoffs, the whole nine. Let's get into it.
No, absolutely. Say, and of course, you know how it is, Mo. I figure we kind of start like this. I know yesterday you guys got to talk about some the big trade in the NBA. Of course, the Trae Young trade happened. So I thought I'd give my 2 cents, and you would let me know. Let me know if you think I'm on base or out of touch.
For sure.
So obviously we all know what happened. Trae Young got traded to the Washington Wizards for Corey Kispert and CJ McCollum. And I'm not gonna lie, if I'm Trae Young, this is a great deal for me, and it's a great deal for Washington. He doesn't even need to play this year, and I think it's a great deal for Washington. So I think it's a great at multiple facets. One, I think when you're Trae Young, we all know his limitations defensively, and I think Washington's got a plethora of young athletic pieces to put around him to, make up for his defensive deficiencies. And the other spot where I think it's really good is, I know it's a lot of people going, why the Wizards? Why not go to a contender? I think the problem with that is we're looking at a situation with Trae that his value right now is just at an all-time low, and I don't think any contender was really looking at him. So I think a great happy medium to that was the Washington Wizards, because over the last couple of years, Wizards have been a great spot to rebuild the vets' value. We saw them do it for Russell Westbrook, Kristaps Porzingis. Before he went to LA, we saw it do it for a guy like Dwight Howard. I think that he's in a great spot now, that he can help develop and train the young guys, and he can rebuild his own value so that in 2 years when he hits free agency, because I'm sure he's accepting that player option, he'll be able to maybe get as close to another max as possible. Now, I don't think he gets another full max as of this moment, but I do think that he's in a good spot to rehabilitate his value. And if there's a team that's going to give him a max, it would be the Washington Wizards. And then they can turn around and kind of do what they did with guys like Russ and Bradley Beal, and they can flip him. Or they can keep him, because I think he'd make a great offensive threat with Alex Sarr. So, like I said, Mo, I think this is a great deal for Washington. Atlanta, as long as they don't trade for Anthony Davis, it's probably fine. You got the salary cap space you're looking for. Use it to fill up with more depth. Don't do the thing where you turn around and flip that depth and cap space for Anthony Davis.
No, I that was kind of my take, that even before he was traded, we talked about this and we both agreed no title contender was going to trade for Trae Young. And the only title contender who might trade for him would have been the Timberwolves. And I don't think they were too high on pairing him with Ant, which I can understand. Fit matters, and what assets you would have to give up matters. So I said he was going to end up on the Kings or the Bulls or the Wizards. He's on the Wizards. I'm not shocked. And it's a good fit, as you pointed out, because one, let's do the obvious, low expectations. It's the Wizards. They're a 10-win team. Nobody's going to go, Trae Young didn't lead them to the playoffs. They're not supposed to make the playoffs. They're not a good team. They have a lot of talent, but it's young developing talent that's nowhere near where they want them to be. I think the best thing you can say is Trae Young is going to bring out more of Alex Sarr's game. I think those two in the pick and roll can elevate Alex Sarr's. I think Trae Young's skill set, his shot creation ability, and his ability to create mismatches is going to benefit Alex Sarr's. So I do think it's a good fit. And I'm not even sure it's a temporary thing because Trae Young's only, I believe he's 26 or 27. So he's still a young man. He could be part of what Washington is doing going forward. It's a good move for him. It's a good move for the Hawks. You don't get back equal value star for star, but CJ's a veteran who can still give you 20 on a given night. He's still a very good combo guard. He's not a point, but he can play point. He's a great locker room guy. And I think when you look at the fact that they've handed the reins over to Jalen Johnson, I think CJ is the perfect kind of veteran guy that Jalen Johnson can pick his brain. So I actually think this move is a win-win for both Atlanta and Trae Young. As far as Anthony Davis goes, look, Anthony Davis, the player, if I was Atlanta, I would trade for him immediately. He's as good as anybody. Anthony Davis, the health risk, I'm probably going to press pause on that. If I'm Atlanta, I've got a nice young core that I'm grooming and developing. If it ain't broke, don't try to fix it. What you don't need to do is bring in a high-priced veteran who's injury prone, and it'll mess up your cap. So, no, I'm with you. I don't think the Hawks need to trade for Anthony Davis. The Hawks I don't think they're built to win a title this year. And to me, if you go after Anthony Davis, I think your front office has said, you know what, we can win a title this year. I get that the East isn't what it normally is. With Anthony Davis and the fact that he's liable to be in street clothes more times than not, I just think the Hawks need to back away from that.
Yeah, I completely agree, Alex. And I don't mind the Trae Young part of this. Now they just need to venture away because it like in theory it sounds like a good idea, and then you look a little deeper and you realize that Kristaps Porzingis has been a great fit for the team, even if he has his own health struggles, but also if you're looking to move on from Porzingis because he can't stay healthy, moving on for him for Davis would be let me put it this way, it would be a choice.
Yeah, and like I said, look, if you could tell me Anthony Davis could give you 2 healthy seasons, I'd make the trade tonight. He's way beyond a better player than Porzingis. It's not even close. They're living in 2 different stratospheres, but you can't tell me that. And wherever he's been, Anthony Davis has been in street clothes more times than not. I don't doubt the talent or the ability. I don't think nobody does, but he's just very injury prone. And let's remind people, this isn't 27, 28-year-old Anthony Davis. This is 32-year-old Anthony Davis. If I'm the Atlanta Hawks, the program that you've built, that you've gotten to where you are, the fact that you moved off of your franchise player to hand the reins over to Jalen Johnson, who, by the way, I'm a huge fan of, I don't think you need Anthony Davis.
It's the most Hawks thing to do. Trade your star player for almost nothing. Is the funny part, right? We saw them do it with Trae. They did it with Trae Young. They did it with Dominique Wilkins back in the '90s for Danny Manning.
Right.
It's always interesting to watch the Hawks trade their star player because they genuinely just go for like cap relief half the time.
I'm going to use your words. Over the years with the Hawks, it's been a choice. It's been a choice. But I like Jalen Johnson. I like Okongwu. I love the way Okongwu has gotten into the gym and has recognized where the league is at, and he's extended his range and become a viable 3-point shooter.
Like we said earlier, Damian, I think the big problem with Trae Young going to a contending team is you need to find a contending team that really wanted him. And with his value being where it is at an all-time low, and making 45 mil, that was never going to happen. So it makes sense for him to go to the Wizards because they're one of the few teams that were willing to take him. And when you start breaking down your terms of, kind of like bottom tier teams that would be a great spot to rehab your value, you look at a place like Chicago and Sacramento, and it doesn't really work for him. If you're Trey, you like playing with a lob threat, and he would lose whatever's left of his hair trying to throw lobs to Sabonis and Vucevic. So pair him with a young athletic team with Alex Sarr at the helm, who's also been a great rim protector, can help cover up for Trey Young's deficiencies. And he can also get healthy, which I think is a really big part, which has been a really big problem for him this year. I think it's a perfect low stakes place to get healthy. And then even if he doesn't even play this year, come back next year, rehab your value, get your extension with Washington, and then figure out your future after that. If you rehab your value well enough, do a sign and trade next year to get to a contender if you want.
And look, I actually think if he does come back and decide to play, he's going to play well. He's going to play well. He's going to take advantage of all those young legs, the athletic legs. Let's throw in a name from a guy who's drafted pretty high, who's a raw talent but very athletic, Bilal Coulibaly. I think a guy like Trey Young would be his best friend. You want a lob threat? It doesn't have to be the 7-foot guy. It could be the 6'5" guy with the crazy vert who can finish over anybody. So I do love the fit. I think if you're a Wizards fan, you guys just got a lot more interesting. The games are going to be a lot more entertaining. And because we know what Trey does well, they're going to upset some teams that they shouldn't beat the rest of the season should he play, because he's that kind of offensive player. We talk about this all the time, that you can tell me how poor defender an offensive player is, but if their offense is so dominant, so impactful, it can offset the deficiencies. We could do a top 10 of guys who are great offensive players who aren't necessarily great defenders, but their value is high because what they do offensively. It isn't just Trey Young. You can look at a Luka. You can look at a Joker. You can look at a Steph. You can look at all those kind of guys. Their offensive dominance has offset their deficiencies.
You know what, Mel? I figured to have a little bit of fun this morning, and let's play a little NBA stock market, and it's really simple. The theme today is next contract. Are you buying or selling these guys living up to their next contract? Now, there's one in here that hasn't been signed yet, but we're just going to assume he's going to get at least near max money, which, ironically, figure we start with Trey Young on the Wizards. His next contract, he can get up to 4 years, 229, which I don't know if he gets the full max, but I think he gets at least pretty close to it. So you think he lives up to this next contract? 'Cause, I'll let you know right now. I think he does.
Yes, because my mind is where yours is. I think they give him a fair offer. I don't think they offer him the full max, but in light of recent seasons and everything that's gone on this year, I think what they offer him, him and his agent will jump at. They'll accept it, and I think that his numbers and his impact, it'll pay off. I think he absolutely. I'm buying on Trey Young living up to his next contract.
Absolutely, it's a perfect stock market ploy. Buy when his value is low, and can sell it a little bit later if it gets too high. Next guy, Mo. Dyson Daniels of the Atlanta Hawks. This guy already has an extension. He's going to be making $25 million over the next 4 years, starting next year. The problem is he has the shooting ability of Andre Roberson right now, shooting 14% from three. Like, he genuinely can't do anything that isn't passing or dunking the basketball right now. So I guess my question is, do you think that this is maybe just a down year for him? Or do you think he gets some of that shooting touch back? You buying or selling $25 million a year for the next 4 years?
I'm buying him as a guy that I would want on my team. I'm selling him at the $25 million a year. I think that's a lot for a guy who, if we're being honest, and I think we both like him and what he's done, but he's more of a defensive specialist than a guy that's going to make 2 or 3 All-Star teams. He's a really good player. But if you can't beat Draymond Green in a game of horse, you're probably not a good shooter, at least not a good enough shooter that warrants $25 million. And remember, Draymond's 35, 36. Tyson's what, 25, 24? Like, I'm a fan, and I think he certainly can become a better shooter, but I don't think he's ever, and he doesn't have to be like, he don't have to be Ray Allen to shoot 38, 40% from three. I just think for the contract, that's a lot for a guy who, even though I'm a fan, I don't think he'll ever be a really consistent shooter. So I would sell.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too. I'm a fan of Dyson, but at 25 mil a year for the next 4 years, I'm selling that because normally shooting leaps aren't that dramatic. Like it was pretty absurd when Derek White went from like a 30, like 5% shooter in San Antonio or 34 to like a 40% shooter. I really don't see him going from, hey, we're gonna go from, 14 to 30, 38, or even most years he's not really that good of a shooter or outside threat. So it'll be interesting to see how this ages, but I don't think this ages particularly well. I think we're going to run into a Naz Reid situation where the next contract doesn't look that great.
And look, you said the Hawks front office has been known to make some crazy moves. He had such a great year last year that because I thought he had a really good chance to win DPOY. I thought he was right there till the end. That they kind of overvalued him. But look, I think he has great value, but not at 25 million per.
No, absolutely. And you say, and Mo, the last guy he got for us, and this is terrifying to me. Bam Adebayo, he's got a 3-year extension with like an average value of like 53 million a year for the next 3 years. Are you buying or selling that he lives up to his $50+ million a year contract for the next 3 years?
All right. For me, the GM, if I'm the GM, I'm selling. Now, if I'm Miami and I'm Heat culture and I know how Miami does things, they really do reward loyalty. Like Bam's not just a really good player on the floor. He's a leader. He's a locker room presence. He's a community guy. Like he checks all the boxes. So I think that's the kind of player you value and you want to hold on to. I'm as much a fan as I am of Pat Riley. Our views on how you want to manage the cap or build a roster construction, we disagree on. I absolutely want a guy like Bam Adebayo on my team. But if I know, and Brett, I know you know, that he's not a franchise type player. He's a really good player, and he's the kind of guy you might put near your franchise player, but he's not a transcendent player. Bam's not a top 10 player. Off the top of my head, and I don't want to sound disrespectful, I don't think he's a top 20 player. He might be a top 30 player. And even then, I'm not sure. I'm not paying you $50 million. I think he's a nice guy, but I can't pay the nice guy $50 million if you can't live up to that kind of money on the floor. He's terrific. Bam's going to be all defense. He's going to make all NBA defense again. He's probably going to have another 18, 10, and 5 season, which, again, those are all rock solid. I just don't – rock solid doesn't get you $50 million. That's the best way I can put it. It doesn't. I'm absolutely selling that he'll ever live up to that contract.
Yeah, no, I say I'm selling this one so fast at $50 million, 50+ mil a year. Like I said, I like what he brings to the table, but that next contract is not going to age well, especially if you're Miami. They always talk about how they want to bring in a big name star and go big game hunting. Good luck with that, especially when to bring in another star and in this modern NBA, you want more depth pieces, all while trying to pay Bam $53 million a year. Yeah. No, I'm out on that one.
How do you go big game hunting when you're paying, you're paying your really good guys who, if you were a title contender, Bam's your third option, right? He could be your best defensive player, but he's your third option. Nobody's third option should ever make $50 million.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. So, and I threw together, say, before we move on to the NFL, Mo, threw together a fun little NBA trade packages as well. Now, the first one that I did was, of course, with the idea that the Hawks are going to hawk and trade for Anthony Davis anyway. So I was curious on what the framework would look like, and this is kind of what I came up with. Anthony Davis for expiring money and Porzingis, Luke Kennard, a 2026 first. Now, it's not the good one. They're not. I see people throwing around like, oh, they got to get that Pelicans pick. They are not getting that Pelicans first. But a Spurs Timberwolves first? Yeah, probably. They could probably get that. And then Asa Newell to all make the money work.
Yeah, I can see them doing something like that. Although on the flip side, if I'm Dallas, I'm sending AD your way. I'm taking a big swing. I know what Atlanta will do, but if I'm Dallas, I'm taking a swing. I'm actually looking at pursuing somebody that's a little more impactful. Like I don't know if they would go for Porzingis. I'm looking at how Dallas is built. I think if Porzingis is involved in the trade, then it's probably a 3-team trade. I don't think Porzingis lands in Dallas. He's been there before. I'm just saying I don't think they would bring him back. They'd probably want Dyson Daniels, but they wouldn't want him at the price he's currently at. So that they probably wanted him. Then they said, like, for that money, now they can keep him. We're good. I think your framework, and I know how your mind works. I think your framework is exactly how it's probably going to play out. It may be off by one player, but or it'll be dead on, but it's probably going to look pretty much the way you outline it if they do that trade. Even though I still think they don't want Porzingis. I'll put it this way: I don't think they want Porzingis, but if they move Anthony Davis, it's because they'll take Porzingis more than they want to keep Anthony Davis, if that makes sense. Because look, they want to hand the reins completely over to Cooper Flag, which I think you should do. I said this: you should move Anthony Davis. You should move Kyrie, and I love Kyrie, but he is 34 years old. He'll be 34 coming off that knee injury. I don't know what version of Kyrie we're going to get, but whatever version we get, Brett, he's going to be 34 years old. So I'm trying to get as many assets that I can, especially going into the next year's offseason, that I can put around Cooper Flag and go forward with Cooper Flag as my franchise player.
No, absolutely. I don't think the Mavericks really have an interest in Porzingis either. I think their interest would be more so in the fact that he only has 1 year left on the contract, him and Kennard. Get some expiring deals, save yourself like a solid, 40, 50 plus million free agency this upcoming offseason. And then, of course, you got your own draft pick as well.
Right.
And it's going to be a lottery pick along with having the Hawks pick. Or say with that San Antonio Spurs pick. So I think that would be an interesting one. I'm trying 80 and Kyle.
Damian, that's not that crazy. Brett's laughing. I don't know if he's laughing while I'm smiling. It's the Kings. The same way you say the Hawks are going to hawk. That is such a Kings move. They would absolutely be like, we're going to get Anthony Davis. We're going to go all in on Anthony Davis. And I think look, I don't think the Mavs would hold on to Zach LaVine. It'd probably be a 3-team trade, but I think they would hold on to Sabonis because everything he does well is on offense, and he's terrific. But they do have a 3-headed monster if you bring Sabonis there, and I like the 3-headed monster. You're probably going to have to get rid of Gafford, but if you get a healthy Lively back, I like the Lively Sabonis that combo. Lively is more of a defensive presence to offset anything that Sabonis doesn't give you when he's in there. But I think Sabonis would work really well offensively with Cooper Flag.
I only chuckled because I'm just looking at this like, why would the Kings do this? And then it hit me. I was like, wait, it's the Kings, so that
It's
this
the
is
Kings.
probably exactly what they would do.
It is the Kings, and they're going to try it out to their season ticket holders. Brett, next season, can you see it? Russell Westbrook, DeMar DeRozan, and Anthony Davis. It's on. What's the line? Strike the beam or light the beam. They're gonna be like light the beam. And you put those three guys together at this point in their careers, and the beam does not get lit at all.
I was gonna say I would be selling my season tickets so fast.
That's fair. That's fair.
I'll wait till the day of where I could probably get one. I'm gonna do a buy one get one package at that point. Ain't nobody going to those games.
Damian, it's crazy, and I'm gonna say they're not gonna do it, but it's not impossible because it's the Kings.
Say, and Mo, you know what? My next couple trade packages are a little boring because I try to keep them realistic, so it's not going to be some massive swap. Say, I did a trade for my Bucks, targeting Sadiq Bey of the Pelicans. I think the Bucks need more size on the wing than anything right now,
and a shooter.
So, yeah, and a shooter. So I went with consolidating a couple of these guards and a second rounder, and going after Sadiq Bey of the Pelicans.
I don't hate that move at all for the Bucks. I love it. And I think obviously the Pelicans, they won't say it, Brett. They'll never say it, but they're already on the verge of tanking. They're already verge of going to tank mode. I think they do that, and I think Sadiq Bey would be a great addition because the guy can shoot. He can be streaky, but when he's on one, I've seen Sadiq Bey. I mean, he can get on a heater. He will make life better for Giannis. Giannis will make life better for him. I like that move for the Bucks. It gives them more firepower and it gives them more depth. So yeah, and I think the Pelicans would do it because even though they're hell bent on keeping Zion, they're clearly a seller's mode. Look, you could get if you're the Bucks, I would absolutely take Sadiq Bey, but if I'm the Bucks GM, I'll take a bigger swing first, and if I get turned down, I can take Sadiq Bey. But if I'm the Bucks, I'm going after Trey Murphy. I know because of the cap. This isn't even about his talent. They would love to keep him, but when you look at what they're going to be, I'm talking about in terms of results and the cap coming up, they have to be sellers. They're going to sell him and Herb Jones. So if you're the Bucks, I think you could. It's like a kind of like a buffet. You might take Sadiq Bey. I would take Sadiq Bey, but I'm gonna take a swing. I'm gonna take a swing at those other two guys first.
No, absolutely. I wanted to make a realistic trade because I hate every single trade rumor the Bucks have had so far.
I got you.
Because like the last three, it was like the Bucks are targeting Zach LaVine. I'm like, I mean, our strength right now outside of Giannis is our guards that can score. I don't need another combo guard that can score. And then it's like, oh, the Bucks checked in on Jalen Green. I was like, please refer to point A. I don't need another combo guard that all he wants to do is score. And it's like, oh, they checked. And then the other one, third one, isn't terrible. It's like, oh, they checked in on Malik Monk. I was like, it's like at least he is a willing playmaker to an extent, but also checkpoint A. I don't need another combo guard that can just score.
Right. Yeah, I get it, especially the way that Porter, and what's the young man that was balling early in the year?
Ryan Rollins.
Yes. Though I think with those two guys, along with Giannis, yeah, those two, and they're both versatile. They're both playmakers, but they can also get buckets. You don't need that. Look, I've said this before, I will say it again. The most maddening player in the National Basketball Association is Zach LaVine. And I'm going to give him flowers, but it's, at the same time be disappointed. Zach LaVine, Brett, tell me he doesn't have top 10 talent. He's a top 10 talent. He can do everything. Attack the basket, beat you off the dribble, finish over the top, shoot from three with great consistency and a high percentage. He can do everything. And he just settles for doing just enough. And it drives me crazy. We should be talking about Zach LaVine the way we talk about Booker and the way we talk about like he had like look at Jaylen Brown, who's having an MVP caliber season. I'm a huge Jaylen Brown fan, but you can't tell me talent for talent. Jaylen Brown has more talent than Zach LaVine. He doesn't. He doesn't. But he's better because he puts in the work. I feel like Zach LaVine just settled. I think Zach LaVine and guys like DeAndre Ayton, I think they eat at the same restaurant. If that makes any sense, they do. They have so much talent, but their motors or how they apply it, it's always disappointing.
No, absolutely. And Mo, I think you'll like the last trade. I decided to flip two guards that need a change of scenery. Let's put Keon Ellis and Dalton Connect.
I like that.
Say let's give the Lakers another 3-and-D guard. Let's give the Kings someone in Connect who showed a lot of potential as a shooter before the Mark Williams trade happened. I think both of these guys at the end of the day need a change of scenery. So I was like, hey, let's just flip them for each other.
I think it's a great trade. Look, I've been saying all along that even though I'm a Laker fan, Dalton Connect, I want him to do well. I want him to be what we all thought he could be. But let's agree, ever since they tried to trade him, he has not been the same guy. And I think it's more of a mental thing, and it's more of a need to change the scenery and think that the team wants him. If you're the Kings, why would you not want a young piece, still 22 years old, who could be part of your future? And then a guy like Keon Ellis, if you're the Lakers, you're desperate. You're desperate for perimeter defenders that can guard multiple positions, which Keon Ellis can do, and he's athletic. I think it could be a trade that's a win-win. And look, I'm a Lakers fan, so like, sure, you'll say that. No, I really believe that because I think Connect will thrive in another situation where he gets a fresh start and really feels like he's wanted versus the Lakers making him feel like, well, we got him back, so we have to settle for. I think he's never gotten over that, and I completely understand it. But I think this one that you put out there, this is a good one that works for both franchises.
By the way, Damian, I feel like the realistic answer is probably just like the Sacramento Kings. But you know what the funny part is? I saw the report that the Warriors are like, we'll keep him past the deadline. And that is the funniest thing ever to me. And the Kings are doing the same thing, ironically, with Keon Ellis. At the end of the day, we're talking about two franchises that are like, we want a first for this guy. And if you don't trade for him, we'll keep giving him DNPs. I'm like, what do you mean? What do you want to play him to up his value if you're Golden State? Like, what are you trying to accomplish here?
They have messed up we could do a whole show on everything Golden State did right when they were like living in the finals. We can also do a whole show on everything they've done wrong when it comes to drafting and developing young players. At some point, your dynasty comes to an end, and your great players get older, and you have to transition into the next wave. And Steve Kerr is hell bent on getting another ring at the expense of developing young talent. And I think Porzingis, I think Kuminga fell into that same trap. I'm not telling anybody that I think Kuminga is going to be a superstar, but do I think he could go somewhere else and be an all-star caliber player? No question in my mind. The guy is a bucket. Golden State, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's a disconnect with him and the guys in the locker room and the front office or all the above. If you don't want him, which clearly you don't want him, like Brett said, you got to play him. And if you play him, I promise you, he will put up numbers and he will have multiple franchises going, you know what? I would be willing to give up something for Kuminga because this is a young kid who has all the offensive talent in the world, and yet he's just laying over there on a Golden State bench, DMPing.
Draymond on his podcast told a funny story with Kuminga, and I don't even think it's meant to be funny. It's meant to show like how great of a teammate he is. But the context he had behind it to me was just utterly hilarious. He goes, "Yeah, Kuminga's such a great guy. After he got subbed out in their last game, it wasn't like the last game; it was the game before that. They're like, but he's like, Kerr subbed out Pods who sat next to Kuminga on the bench." And I was, listening to their conversation, and Pods was just frustrated and complaining to Jonathan Kuminga about playing time. And I'm like, oh God, is that the guy to be complaining to about playing time? He's probably just looking at you like, yeah, so playing time. What is that?
That's crazy that Pods is telling Kuminga, like, man, I'm getting tired of being subbed in and out. I'm Kuminga. I'm like, I don't get subbed in at all. At all. Why are you talking to me?
That's and also Drake just eavesdropping and just dumping their entire conversation on his podcast is also a choice. But
is that proof that he's a great teammate or not such a great teammate? Right?
I'm not gonna lie, I'd be kind of annoyed if I were Pods and he did that.
100%, because it makes Pods look like an ass. Clearly, Pods knows Kuminga's like Pods is getting burned. He clearly knows Kuminga can leave from the game and go straight to the club because he ain't working up no sweat. It makes Pods look like a kind of an ass. So yeah, I'd be upset. Look, I really think I would love it if Steve Kerr and Dunleavy surprised us and they started the process of doing the hard thing. I think they got Jimmy Butler 2 years too late. I think they got Al Horford 2 years too late. I think Draymond Green, for all the antics, the winning is over. I'd move on from all three of those people I just named. I would free Kuminga. I'm not saying free him and put him in my starting lineup. I would acknowledge I don't want him, but he has value. You have to do the tough thing and realize you are not winning another title in the Steph Curry era. Steph alone, because he's playing at a high level, Brett, he will make them relevant because you'll come watch him play. But in terms of being relevant in the title picture, they're not relevant. We look at the Warriors right now. What do we say? They'll probably make the play-in. They'll probably make the play-in and then get knocked out. That they're not relevant. I'm not. Why am I holding on to Draymond and Al Horford and even Jimmy Buckets, who isn't quite the player that he was? What's the point of it?
Damien, you are rolling with these trade suggestions today.
Did he say Ja?
Ja to the Warriors. Oh, let's do it. Let's just go with the completely undersized backcourt with an undersized front court and see exactly where that goes.
I feel like Ja to the Warriors is like a 2K trade, right? Like you can make that in 2K. Although my guess is if the Warriors if you tried to trade for Ja, you're the Warriors, even in 2K, I don't think you can pull it off. Even the computer would be like, nah, it doesn't work for me that you're sending back Pods and Kuminga. I think it's a good fantasy trade, the idea of Steph and Ja, but in practice, in real life, like my partner just said, you want to make the backcourt that small and that defensive deficient. Not to mention, Ja, to say he's an inconsistent shooter is being nice. I would say that because of their playing styles, it would never work. I think Steph would get tired of watching Ja go ISO because Golden State's whole thing is about movement and ball movement. That's not really Ja's thing. Like I thought John Morant would get traded, Brett, but I'm come to the point now where because Memphis is kind of in NBA purgatory, I've changed my thought process. I actually think he's not going to get traded.
Say, you know what? Why not? Let's just send Zion to the Warriors too while we're at it. I'll go with the theme being disappointing 2019 class.
That's a choice. I mean, that's a choice. Look, if I were the Pelicans, you know how I feel about him. I would have been traded that guy. And I would get back a haul because people still talk about his potential. I would get back a haul for this dude. Why would you not do that? You would alleviate some salary cap. You would get back assets. I get it. The argument's going to be, well, we don't have nothing to build around. I completely disagree. You've got Queen, you've got Fears, and you can make a decision on what you want to do with Trey Murphy. But I think you do have building blocks there. I just don't think Zion's one of them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Mo, I figure we finish up by talking some NFL. I think the coaching searches are interesting, Mo, but I gotta be honest, man. I think the Tennessee Titans are casting too wide of a net for their coaching search. When I see the words "we've interviewed Jason Garrett," I'm like, okay, why? You know you're not hiring that man. Like, is Marvin Lewis coming up soon? Like, what? I'm excited to see who they get, and I think they should go for. I said I think they're going to go for some veteran stability like a Arba. I think they'll definitely be in that race, but I just found that so funny when I saw the words interviewing Jason Garrett. That kind of killed me. Not gonna lie.
You found it funny, but a mutual friend of ours, I know, I'm pretty sure Jury didn't find it funny. I know Jury didn't find it funny. I thought Tennessee would jump all over John Harbaugh and say, John Harbaugh, you're our guy. You're our first and last choice. That's what I thought they would do because I think Harbaugh would go there and bring them instant credibility. I think he's really good at building, team building, and being that kind of leader and overseer that you need in a head coach. I think he's exactly what Cam Ward needs, that kind of stability and credibility. So, and look, you could make the same case for a guy like Jackson Dart in New York. I think Tennessee or New York would be great landing spots from John Harbaugh. When I heard the name Jason Garrett, I was like, man, they really are trying to really upset their season ticket holders. Jason, like my thinking on coaches is when you fire your coach, you're bringing in not just a new coach, but you're bringing in someone who you and your fan base believe is an upgrade. I don't believe that Jason Garrett is an upgrade.
At the rate at the rate the Titans are moving Damian, he's probably on the list too.
Yeah, on the flip side, I also think the way the Raiders are, Jason Garrett's probably on their list too.
I say Raiders are going to hype up like they're going to bring in John Harbaugh, Brian Flores, and then it'll just be like Jason Garrett or Mike McCarthy.
Yeah. So why do I feel like Mike McCarthy for sure is getting another job, another head coaching job? I don't know where, but I said this. If you want a safe pick, it's Mike McCarthy. He's a safe pick. Somebody's going to pick him.
Hilariously enough, I can see that being Tennessee. I just think that when you're the Titans, you might be looking for just some veteran stability at coaching after the whole Callahan fiasco. So
Great.
I could very well see if they miss out on Harbaugh going to somebody like Mike McCarthy. Because I think Mike McCarthy can still build a culture and he can still do pretty decent at it. I just think he's the guy that once you get the team together and you seriously want to start competing, that's when you move him to a front office advisor role. I don't think he's that guy, but in terms of getting a winning culture set up, I think he can help in that regard.
I agree 1,000% on that one. I think Mike McCarthy is the kind of coach that brings credibility and it can turn your franchise around. I think he can turn you into a winner, and bring that kind of culture to your franchise. Like you said, he has a ceiling, but if you're the guy that turns the franchise around, makes them 10 or 11 win team for the next 2 or 3 years, and then you move up to the front office, I do envision that Mike McCarthy's perfect for that because he's a winner. I think if you don't get John Harbaugh, Mike McCarthy is the perfect coach for Tennessee, in my opinion.
Saying, of course, Mo, we got an entire slate of wild card weekend games. Thought we'd go through and pick some winners. And of course, why don't we just go right in order? So we'll start Saturday, first game. For once, it is not the Houston Texans. We are starting with Panthers Rams. Panthers got them a couple weeks ago, Mo. Do you think lightning strikes twice, or do the Rams just kind of walk all over them and keep it moving?
I think we're going to finish in the middle on this one. I think the Rams win, but I think it's a competitive football game that's a lot closer than people expect. I think the Panthers are going to be in a position to win the football game, but the Rams are going to win a close one. I think the Panthers will make it competitive because there's certain things they can do, especially with their run game, to offset the Rams.
So yeah, I think this is going to be a Rams victory, and you can interpret this how you want it. If you think it's just going to be a blowout or that last second touchdown that puts it away, I do think the Rams win this one by double digits. But I wouldn't be shocked if it's one of those who are up 7 and ice it with the last second touchdown to like Devontae. I just think a lot of what happened in that last matchup was some carelessness with the football. They got 3 turnovers off Stafford. I don't think that happens again. And I think this time the Rams take care of the football and they do win this one by double digits. I wouldn't be shocked, obviously, if the Panthers stayed in it. And it's like a 7-point game going into the fourth. But I think that last second touchdown makes it a 14-point win for the Rams. I do think they win this one pretty comfortably. But I am also expecting this to be a game for at least like the first 3 quarters.
Yeah, look, if you're right and the Rams take care of the football, then I don't think it's that close. If they take care of the football, it won't be a close football game.
I know next game Damian and I are going to disagree on Saturday night. Bears Packers. You know who I think is going to win this one, so I'll let you have the floor on this one. Do you think it'll be Bears or Packers moving on?
I wavered. I did. I wavered. I think I started out thinking Packers, and then I started leaning Bears. Here's how I'll play it. I want the Packers to win, but I want them to win because my friend and partner is a Packers fan. So I want that for him. I do. I'm selfish. I want my friend's team to win. But it's in Chicago. And I think that this game comes down to which team is going to be able to run the football better. Either young quarterback could step up. Obviously, Jordan Love is more accomplished, but I do think it's going to come down to which team can run the football better. You don't have to. I'm not saying rush for 150, 200 yards, but which team can run the football. Let's say which team can run the football effectively. Let me play it that way. I think that's where the game is going to be at. And so I kind of lean towards the Bears on this one. I think it's a close football game, but I'm leaning towards the Bears.
Damian, the answer to this is no. I think the Rams should just keep Sean McVay. He's been a very good coach for them.
Exactly.
Say it. Like, no matter what situation you put him in, he's always had this team overperforming, if anything. So I want to put 50 on Green Bay, but in reality, see the Bears winning 27-20. Hey, you know what? Like I said, I think it'll be a really low scoring, close game. I think Damian's got it in about the right ballpark. Of course, I'm going to pick Green Bay to win. I was thinking like 24-20. So it'll be interesting. It'll be a fun game, though, man. The best team win, Damian.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an entertaining game. There are going to be some points scored. Nothing crazy. It won't be 35-31, but I agree. I think that 24-27 range, that's where we're going to be. I agree.
Of course, this might be the best game of the whole wild card weekend, in my opinion. Sunday, noon, Bills, Jags. Jaguars, second half of the season, they've been playing like the best team in football. Bills, nobody circles the wagon like the Buffalo Bills. So, Mo, who is it? It's going to be Bills or Jaguars?
Look, I've been so impressed with Jacksonville all this year. Trevor Lawrence has been tremendous this year. He's not turned the football over as much, had command of the offense. I think Jacksonville should be favored, but I think Buffalo is going to pull it off. I think Josh Allen recognizes the opportunity that he has in front of him. No, he doesn't have the best receiving core in football, but what he does have is he's got one of the 3 best running backs in football, and he's also got some really talented tight ends. I think it's a shootout, but in a shootout, I'm going to lean towards Josh Allen.
No, absolutely. I put my faith in Josh Allen to get it done too, but honestly, I'm going to slightly disagree with you, Damian, because if the Bills win, it would be a Bills upset.
Yes.
If you look at how Jacksonville has played in the second half of the year, I wasn't even kidding when I said that. They played at the level of the best team in football. Top 5 offense, top 5 defense. There's a reason when they're in the position that they're at. They've been elite the second half of the year. If the Bills win, it'd be a pretty big upset in my opinion. Like the Jaguars have just been cooking on all cylinders. So this is one of those games that it could go either way. And I would never, for example, put any money on it. But say if the Jags win on Sunday, it would be the least surprising thing of Sunday.
I agree.
Say, all right, here we go. 49ers, Eagles, Mo. Do you think your team moves on, or do you think the injuries finally catch up to them?
I root for my team. That's what we do. So I'm pulling for the Niners, but if I'm separating myself, the fan, from the guy that's sitting here talking football, I think for the Niners to win, they would have to get some help from the Eagles. They would need some fumbles. They would need a tip pass that becomes a pick. The Niners don't have a pass rush. We are last in the National Football League in sacks. The injuries have piled up, and Robert Saleh is a great defensive coordinator, but he can't create a pass rush out of thin air. We've already had to replace multiple guys on defense, and now the guy that replaced the great Fred Warner, who's been a solid player all year long at middle linebacker, he's out. So now we have a third guy calling the plays on defense. Look, I think the Niners have overachieved with all the injuries. For this to be a close game, Brett, the Niners offense would have to be able to not just move the football, but we'd have to be able to score. I would say we have to score at least 20 to 24 points to force the Eagles offense to do something different other than what they plan on doing. That's a lot of ifs. So I'm going to simplify. I think the injuries do catch up with them. I think that Eagles defensive line with a healthy Jalen Carter is going to shut down the Niners run game, which puts everything on Purdy. I think the Eagles win this pretty comfortably.
Yeah, that's fair. I have the Eagles in this one as well. I think the game ends up being closer than expected because I think the problem with the Eagles will just end up being flat out their play calling gets predictable, and I think if there's a guy who can exploit that to keep this game close, I think it is Robert Saleh. I think talent-wise, the Eagles should win this one in a blowout, but play calling has been iffy all year. It's been super predictable, and I think Saleh takes advantage of that and at least keeps the 49ers in the game till the end.
I hope you're right. Look, if like I said, talent for talent, they should blow us out. But, and I said, we're going to need some help from them. If that help comes in the form of their offensive coordinator, I'll take it.
Absolutely. Sunday night game, another fun game of the weekend. Chargers Patriots. Say, Mo, do you think Kyle's going to be a happy man on Sunday with the Patriots victory, or do the Chargers send him home?
I think Kyle's going to be a happy man, but I think it's a more competitive game than people think. Look, what is Jim Harbaugh's one of his great strengths? He can just bring out the most in a player. He can make guys overachieve. The Chargers, in a lot of ways, and I said this, they're very similar to the Niners. They've been injury ravaged on both sides of the football, especially on the offensive line. And yet they find a way to win football games. I will say this: if this game is close going into the fourth quarter, Kyle might end up being a happy man, but he's gonna be sweating gravy. I don't think it's a blowout. I think a lot of people think it will be a blowout. I think Jim Harbaugh will find a way to get his team to be competitive, and this will be a closer football game. I think the Charger strategy, they want to muck it up, and if they can muck it up, I think you're talking about a game where it might be 2017, and the Patriots might win that way.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think this game is going to be close, but I do think that'll end up being the key. The fact that the Chargers they've done so well for so long, but now you have to go to Foxborough and try to win without your two bookend tackles. I think that just ends up being too much at a certain point, and I think this game it finally catches up to them. Yeah. Say honestly though, like I said, great season by the Chargers. All I want to see is them be competitive, and I really hope that Justin Herbert has a good game, even in a loss. Then hopefully that would be the first step for him to kind of get a better rep in the postseason. He needs a solid game on Sunday.
I love the way you put that. Yeah, he doesn't have to win the game. He needs to just play well in that game. And I hope he takes advantage of his athleticism because I think that's where he can hurt the Patriots defense if he uses his legs more.
No, absolutely. Say in the last game, Monday, Mo, we got Texans Steelers. How do you think this one goes?
Look, if the Steelers are going to have a chance, they have the perfect quarterback to offset that front seven and that pass rush. And what is Aaron Rodgers' greatest strength? He can walk up to the line of scrimmage and go, I already know what you're going to do. Also, because they have such a great pass rush, another strength he has, Aaron Rodgers gets rid of the football extremely quick. Extremely quick. And he's going to have to be on his A game for the Steelers to have a chance because if not, he's going to be black and blue by the end of the game because those bookend D ends, they are coming. I think Pittsburgh makes this competitive, but I think the Texans are the better football team. I think the Texans win.
Texans win and Tomlin gets fired on the field.
That's not. I don't think it plays out that way. But we were talking about this. Tomlin got to live another week because he beat Harbaugh. But if he turns around and loses in the playoffs, and he hasn't won in the playoffs in a minute, I think there'll be chatter. But I don't think he's getting fired.
And you know what's funny, Mo? Normally, I do think that there's going to be one upset wild card weekend, and I picked this game. Give me the upset of Old Man Rodgers knocking out the Houston Texans Monday Night Football. I think Rodgers, at the end of the day, for all the struggles the Steelers have had, I think they'll develop a game plan. I think he's the perfect guy to attack this defense. Now, obviously, it wouldn't shock me if the Steelers, lost. But I know he's going to, they're going to develop something where he gets the ball out quick. They're going to run the ball a lot to keep the pass rush at bay and keep the offense holding off the field. I think as long as they're efficient, they're converting their third downs and keep moving the chains. I know a lot of people expected this one to be a blowout, but I think this game is at least a lot closer than people think.
Look, I agree with you. I'll put it this way: if the Steelers can keep Aaron Rodgers clean, then the Texans are in trouble. Like I said, I think he's the perfect quarterback because of his ability to not only read defenses and see where you're adjusted into and out of, but he gets rid of the football quick. I think the Steelers' tight ends and running backs are key in this game. I think Aaron Rodgers, if he has to, he will dink and dunk you to death to slow down that pass rush. 6 yards here, 8 yards there. Like, he's the perfect quarterback. So if anybody can slow down his pass rush, I think it's him. Now, that being said, we'll see how it plays out. But, yeah, I think this is going to be a really close football game.
No, absolutely. Look, I want at least one upset on Wild Card Weekend. I could have, it could have been boring and easily picked all the favorites, but
right.
Fortune favors the bold, or I just look like an idiot Monday. So I guess we'll figure out which one, right?
I think it would be an upset, but I don't think it's crazy. I think people are underestimating that. Like anybody, if you throw out the fact that he's 42 years old and just look at how he's playing the game, Aaron Rodgers is playing quarterback as well as anybody going into the playoffs. That's what I would say.
No, absolutely. And with that, Mo, we are out of time this morning. So anything you want to add before we get on out of here?
Nope. Thank you, chat. Damien, you know what? May the best team win, partner. Appreciate you guys. Guys, make sure you check out all the wonderful, great, excellent content we have at Wire to Wire Network. Wire to Wire Network, we appreciate you. Appreciate you, Brett, for hopping on and doing what you do, being the point guard. Thank you so much, and have a great weekend, everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see Mo and I again Monday for the Meaty Boys podcast. You can also catch me On the Ball with Ian and Kyle. The answer to this, by the way, is no. Matt LaFleur's not going anywhere.
He is not.
Say thank you. And like I said, thank you guys for tuning in, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend.